Hello, and welcome to another episode of Sass Bites. I'm your host, Mike Godbolt, and you're catching your weekly bite of Sass during your lunch break, or at least your lunch break if you are in Central Time Zone. I just started a little early today. I had some meetings later on. But anyway, a couple things to announce today. For one, you might see something slightly different if you're watching on Twitter or if you're looking down that way. Well, it's hard to do reversed. You might see a new little icon down there. I been looking to get a new logo for Sass Bites, and we've been talking to a friend, Una Kravitz, and she's been putting together this awesome logo for me. You can see our little chef down there. There's a little bit more of the logo that I'm going to pull out shortly with the rest of the verbiage and all that. But she did an awesome job. We did some fun collaborating to kind of come to this conclusion of this awesome little chef guy serving you up a bit of sass. So here's our sassy chef, and really want to thank her. If you're not following her at Una, at UNA, follow her, have her pay her money to build things, and just thank her for being awesome. So thanks to Una for making that logo, and I'm so happy to not have my old ugly, no, not the Sass logo is ugly, but it was like total Photoshop job. It was horrible in the past. So what we're going to be talking about today is element query, and specifically Sam Richard, aka Snugug's EQ.js, kind of what it is, why it is, and how we're using it in this project that we've been building. So I'm going to, without further ado, dive into it and show it off to you. So let me see. Yep, there we go. So a couple of things I want to do is EQ.js. If you go, let's see, it's on Snugug's. Oh, come on, Snugug. GitHub. Hype live today. Oh, hey, it's right there. Let's click on that. And it was right there. So here's EQ.js. So EQ.js is an element query JavaScript. There we go. Lightweight JavaScript powered element queries. So what are element queries? The reason that we use element queries is because we want to be building these components that can change and mute and adapt to whatever size container you put them into. For the longest time, we've got media queries, so we can change the size of something, as the screen changes. We can basically query the size of the screen and change layouts because of that. But what happens if you take that same element and put it full width of the screen? Okay, fine. But you take that same element and put it into a sidebar. Well, the screen hasn't changed, so there's no way for us to be able to enact any media queries on it. So that's the idea of element queries, is it's able to basically query the size of the space that an element has, and to be able to make changes based on that. So go here, check it out. You can pull it in via Bower. That's what we're doing with our project. Yeah, check it out. It's pretty rad. If you go this right here, you need some links on here, buddy, because I keep going here and then realize I can't get to the actual repo. This is basically EQ.js running on like thousands of nodes on the page, and basically showing that it doesn't impact performance of change of scrolling and whatnot. There's no hiccups. There's no. He's just doing some really smart things behind the scenes to make that work. So let's go ahead and jump into the code and see how it gets set up and how it's used and how we can make changes to it. So I'm going to open our project up, and I'm going to run grunt so we get our style guide running. And apparently didn't want to pop up. There it goes. So here's our style guide. So to see a couple of these element queries in action, let's specifically go to our blog teaser. A blog teaser uses it really well. And thing I love about this, I don't even actually have to dive in my code because it's all right here. So the way that we use EQ.js, actually I'll show this first thing with Sublime, is pulling it in. The way that we're pulling it in is in our bower.json. You can see here that our dependency is EQ.js. It's not just a dev dependency, but it's a full-on dependency, so it's always going to come into the project. So we're using EQ.js to pull it in. I'm trying to recall if we're concatenating Bower concat, yeah. And we're using Bower concat basically to grab all of the JavaScript inside of all of our Bower components and to pull that into our project. So that's how the JavaScript is getting into our project. We don't have to download a file or anything like that. Bower is automatically pulling it in, and our Bower concat is automatically putting together all the JavaScript into one file that our style guide can import, or if you send this to a live site, so that can import. So that's how it gets in the project, and that's really all you need to do to get it running. It just basically automatically watches. You don't have to like apply it, or like it's not a function that you run. It automatically just runs in the page. So what EQ.js does is it looks for these this data attribute. Now I know Snugguy just did an update today, I believe it was today, that makes this so you don't actually have to put it in the DOM. You can actually write this in Sass and CSS, and it pulls from that. I think it uses some pseudo elements basically to put this data in to the DOM via pseudo elements. And actually, I'll probably have him on to talk about it and maybe do some demonstrations of that in the future. He pinged me about wanting to demo it. So I'd love to have him come in and show that at another point. That just came out today, so I've not implemented it. And honestly, I kind of like this because this is often going to be case by case, whether I want this to break at 400 or 600, or depending on where I put it. Sometimes I like to be able to change that number in the DOM and have that different per implementation. So honestly, I kind of like having it in here. But point is, what EQ.js does is it looks at this EQ points. And it basically, it looks for the one that's, it basically starts from 0 and works its way up in numbers until it finds the last match. So small starts at 0. So I'm going to find that like 0 to 399, it's going to say, hey, you're small. If it's over 400, it's going to say, okay, you're large. And that's what EQ.js is going to do, or what it's going to look at. And what it's going to do, if we jump into the code here, is you see, there we go. So here's the EQ.pts, the EQ points that we described. It's then going to add another data attribute, data EQ state. And that state is going to, at this point, say large. But if I change the size of this, and get rid of this so I can actually get down there, we can see the data EQ state has been changed to small. And that's basically all the EQ.js is doing. It's a very, very simple. It's looking at those numbers, figuring out what is that value, that number value, that the largest one that matches, and what should we put in that EQ state. And whenever you change the screen size, or change context, like if you click a button and it moves, or if you expand something or something like that, it's going to constantly look for those kind of things. And then what we can do is we can use our Sass to actually target that. So let's look at this component real quick, and blog teaser CSS. So we can go in here and we can say that when the data EQ state is small, then we're going to do something different. We're gonna, in this case, we're gonna add a bleeding container. Let's see if I got this blog layout. Yeah, this is probably easier to look at. So here's our image container. I'm gonna put a context on it of data EQ state large. So this is the blog image container right here in the ampersand. When it's inside of a large EQ state, then it's gonna have a span of 3 of 12. So it's gonna have 3 of 12 columns. And same thing with the contents. When it's large, it's going to have 9 of 12. So basically, if it's not large and it's small, then it's not going to have any. It's going to go 100% width. But if we wanted to be specific about it, we could totally go in here and add small, do that, and say 12 of 12. Or if we only want it to be 8 of 12, and have it be off to the side, we could totally do that as well. So that's the way we use it. It's just like a regular selector inside of our Sass. You can see now, yeah, and actually in the smaller one, it actually floats it a little bit because it's only 8 of 12. It actually still floats it. Anyway, there are a couple of mixins that the EQ.js comes with that allows you to write your, so instead of having to write all these all the time. So if we go into our Bower components, EQ.js, if you want to use a Sass, you can do that by just passing in the states here, and then it's automatically going to show up. So it comes with some mixins as well. So that's basically what how we build this thing. We define the states, define the points, I guess the better way to say it. So small is 0, large is 400. I could change this to like, 1200. Oops, not 1200. And that would actually make it so that at the smaller, it doesn't fire yet because it needs to get to 1200, which I can't probably get to because my screen's not big enough. So we could change the number at where that large fires. I think maybe it needs a refresh. My screen must not be getting big enough. 800. Oh, because no, this is blog teaser. Okay. So you can change the number in there of where it actually changes. Hey, there we go. So now it changes at a completely different point. And you can also do multiple. You could do small, you could do medium. Really, you can use any word you want. You're not like, doesn't specifically have to be something. So we could do medium at 400 and then large at 500. I think I've got all that right. Yep. If you did this, one thing to note is that this is not like a min width kind of thing. So with media queries, we can say, min width to 500, this applies. With this, it's going to either be small, medium, or large. Oh, and large, probably 800. So that means that if I'm at the large state, the medium doesn't apply anymore. Like we're not at medium. Basically, we're doing like a min max. So 0 to 400 is small, 400 to 800 is medium, 800 and above is large. So it doesn't work exactly like media queries for that respect. So just something to remember that if you want something to play at medium and large, then what you need to do is go in here and do both. And that's where this is where you can make mix-ins to make this a little bit easier. Here we go. So I would have to do like this for medium as well. So if I wanted to apply it medium and large, I have to explicitly state both of those, and I would need to do this. There we go. Doing just medium is not going to apply to medium and large because that the data attribute keeps changing. Anyway, so we'll put this back to normal. And let's take a look at why you would want to do this. The main reason you want to do this is because you've got this blog teaser. And like, sure, I could do this with media queries. Like this is, if it's just a full width of the page, I could totally do that with the media query. And it's not going to change anything at all. Let's get this back to where I was. Okay. But what happens is sometimes you want to put these blog teasers into other containers. And there's no way in your styles to know which containers those go into. It's really a content issue. It's at that point, it's a, how is our layouts and how is our page put together, which is part of the reason that I'm fine with that being part, the EQ points being part of your markup. So if you look at our sidebar layout, this is a perfect example. So we've got a sidebar that has section left and a side on the right. So we have two different sections that are different sizes. And what this means is I can put that same blog teaser on the right here, and it'll stack because it's under 400 pixels. And I can also put it on the left here in the content section, and it's not going to stack because it's large enough to fit that. Now, of course, you're not often going to put these on the same pages, but what this does is it allows you to create components that flex to its use. So this component, if I put it in a sidebar, it's going to look like this. If I put it in a larger area, it's going to look like this. If this changes and it all stacks now, get down here, everything stacks because it's all within that context. So whether it's in the sidebar, it stacks, or in the main section, it stacks, because it all just looks at like how large is this container that I'm sitting in right now. And this allows you to create one component that works everywhere. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to make, oh, here's a sidebar thing that looks like this, and oh, here's a content thing that looks like this. Now we can have one single blog teaser that works everywhere. It has a couple different contexts, maybe has different layouts, maybe have different font sizes, where you can really use those selectors to do anything you want to the styles. So that's EQ.js. EQ.js allows us to basically query the size of the container that our components being put into and change styles dependent on that. It's a beautiful thing. It makes your components a lot more full use. So I could have like for instance, in our current project, we have a video embed that works for if you just want to put the video in a tiny little like sidebar, or if you want to put the video on it, like one big full page. So we can make a single component that works for all those use cases. And that's really great because you're not having to build multiple components for different use cases and have to keep track of all those. So go out, check out EQ.js. There's a lot of conversation right now about this idea of element queries, how it's going to be implemented, what it's going to be like if it ever becomes a spec inside of HTML and CSS. It'd be great if it did, but for now, EQ.js is awesome. It's being used in lots of large production sites. It's really well tested. It's a great tool if you're using it right. The place you'll get in trouble is if there's like recursive stuff going on where like the size of this element is dependent on its content. And when the content changes, the size of the thing changes. When the size of the thing changes, the content changes. So you just want to make sure you're not like nesting these all in crazy ways that might cause that. But if you just have, your side and your main content area and put stuff into it, you really shouldn't have any trouble whatsoever using this pretty extensively. So go out there, give it a shot. Tell me what you think. Ping Snugug, tell him thanks. Buy him a drink, buy him lunch sometime. And we'll have him back to talk about some of the stuff he's doing with it and maybe give more of a full demo that I wasn't able to do. But as you can see, it's a real big part of this project right here. It really helps us out so we can just have a single component that does everything we want, which is going to help with testing, which I think is what I'm going to try and get into in the next couple weeks, because probably going to wrap this up at the end of this year and start something up new next year. So if you're curious about Phantom CSS, if you're curious about regression testing, I think I'm ready to start diving into that with this project and show how we're going to basically make sure that the visuals of this project don't accidentally change over time as we continue to work on it. So check that out. Thanks for stopping by this week, and we will see you again next week at whatever time works out, 10, noon. You know how it goes. See ya. Say hi to Unit. Tell her thanks for the awesome logo, and you'll be seeing more of Chef Sass in the upcoming weeks. Thanks again.